Hey, it's Coach with Tactical Hyve. As you can see, I'm not on a range today. I've seen a lot of videos out there of guys painting guns. And like, well, yeah, you guys don't want to see another video of a guy painting a gun. But honestly, I've got my own kind of idea about this. When I paint a gun, I'm thinking about coyotes and rats and anything, any wild animal that runs around in low light or under jungle canopy or whatever. If you notice, there's some common things about them, right? All their dark colors are along the backside, and their stomachs can be even white. And what this does is light, normally, when you're right side up, that light is coming from the top. And when it comes from the top, that dark color on top absorbs the light color on the bottom reflects the light, so it lessens that shadow. So it kind of just makes the whole thing kind of just, just fade off, right? There's no harshness to it, right? You can't see the angles as much. On the sides, yeah, you got different, you get tigers and, whoever else. They've got, other patterns and stuff. So we're just gonna go with some foliage. So the things I've got here, just some leaves like cut out of the yard, some masking tape, because you always want to make sure you mask off certain areas in your optic, your sights. I always put masking tape on the rear sight here and the front sight because I want to keep them black. Black, this absorbs the light, so when you're looking through there, if that was to be tan or something other than black, it tends to reflect and you can't see your aperture quite as well if you're going to use your aperture. But you want it to be there available to you if it's on your gun. And of course, the optic, you want to cover the lenses, obviously. But pretty much everything else can just have a coat of paint on it. It doesn't really do much. You don't want to like spray and cake it on. But when I was operating, we didn't have all the cool fancy wraps and dips and crap like that. And pretty much every gun that we got was black out of the box. Black guns in the desert when it's hot. Guess what, man? They're just a pain in the ass. You don't want them to absorb all that heat, even if you're just shooting on the range. So throwing a coat of paint on there was practical in that. And as well, it made sense because at night, now this didn't happen to me, but a buddy of mine, they were, oh yeah, paint your rifle, whatever. Well, they're running around in the weeds. And of course, everybody hears what the bad guys are talking about because they're on open radios. And well, they're listening to this guy and the Terp saying, hey, they're saying these guys, they don't know where you are. You don't know where you are. They're asking. Well, so the advisor for the bad guys said, look for their guns. Okay. So it went, oh, okay. Yeah, we see them now. So the guys got back from that night and everybody painting their freaking gun. Okay. So it takes out that, black is the one thing you don't see in nature, right? And it can be camo from head to foot. If I'm walking around with this, it's easier to see, rolling around. So even at night, things just kind of gray out. And black is not the color you want, okay? Now, I know these days, everything comes in flat dark earth or coyote or some sort of desert tan color, and that's fine. But if you find yourself with an older black rifle, and even the tan ones, you can still put the darker on the top and throw a little, form, a little pattern on the sides to help break it up a little bit. So on a side note, back when I was part of the SCAR program, the question of what color do you want this gun? It came up. And there was some guys from another branch that were like, well, we want it black. I'm like, well, why not tan? Let's go with tan. We're painting everything tan anyway. Why not go with that? And he looked at me with a straight face and said, how do you quantify that color? I went, what? He said, black is black. So he was more concerned with what it looked like on the parade ground than it was effective in the field. And thank God we overrid him, and we got a tan gun for the SCAR. Just a side note, things going more of a tan or neutral color, always better, always better. Okay, so first things you want to consider is making sure that all the pieces that you don't want painted need to be covered up. So I went ahead and cut bunch of these small pieces here because there's some small areas that that need to be dealt with. Starting here, just going with the rear aperture sight. And this is going to be laying down pretty much. So not too worried about, the biggest thing is just making sure that the aperture, the ring there, is pretty much completely covered, so it'll stay black. Now on this one, you got your little range markings there. You should know where your bullet's going. So we'll go ahead and cover that one up. And again, this is not, you know, this ain't Hollywood. I'm not trying to, it's not like painting a car, okay? We're just getting this stuff so it's user friendly, okay? And making sure that, yeah, your front sight's good to go. Okay, now this Sigma Romeo 5, there's a little bit of a recess there, so I'd have no problem just throwing a little tape around that rim, that ridge, and that's going to take care of that. If you've got an optic that the glass comes all the way out and you can't really cover it, then you can put a little cotton swab or something underneath just to keep the tape off your glass. You don't want to risk getting paint on your Night Force objective lens. I mean, you can even actually put the actual covers on, and that's fine. You put Kleenex or whatever, tissue, whatever underneath there, put the covers on. That's what the snipers would do. But honestly, this isn't, I'm not setting this up for sniping. And again, this is just a little, you know, Sig Romeo. Now, if possible, if there's some controls that tells you something, like, oh no, this one says right, gives you a direction for your adjustments, I'd rather know that than not know it. Just because, you know, I'm familiar with this site, that's not a problem, but there's a bunch of other sites out there too. So always good to know what direction you need to turn your dials in order to make adjustments. Now, if you're a brand guy and you want to you know, make sure that the 6 Hour Romeo 5 stays on there, then yeah, put a bit of tape on there. But honestly, I don't care. You know, Sig makes a good product, but I don't need to look down at it. I don't care if anybody else looks at it and goes, hey, Sig. No, I'm this is a user gun. Okay, so this is pretty much everything that needs to be taped up. You know, other guys be out there saying, well, no, you gotta tape the trigger and you gotta tape this. You know, you can take this thing apart and spray paint each individual piece if you want. I'm just showing you how I do it. It's pretty simple, doesn't take that long, and it worked for a number of years for me. We just use whatever rattle cans are laying around. Krylon, what's the other one? Rust-Oleum. I mean, some of them make camouflage colors. I don't care brands, it's a rattle can. What you want though is flat colors as much as possible, but if you find a color that, you know, in a pinch, you know, your Home Depot only has, you know, whatever, gloss tan, you can get a clear coat that goes over the top that's just a matte. You want matte or flat, whatever. And I actually like to, once everything is painted up, I like to run it over with that real quick, just give it that one little extra layer, you know, of protection. And as you run around and bash these things, if it gets too bashed up and you don't like the way it looks, break out the rattle can again and just touch it up. All right, easy day. Okay, so let's get this thing hung up and ready to go. Okay, so we've got the wires just going through the flash hider up here, just hanging it down, you know, about where you need it. And the first thing I'm gonna do is just go over, we're gonna just degrease a little bit so we can get a better stick of the paint. And I'm just using a little carburetor cleaner here, not getting too crazy, and I'm kind of staying away from the places that I've taped up. And we're just gonna get a little bit of grease off. And carburetor cleaner evaporates fairly quickly, but we'll give this a minute or two, and then we'll start painting. Okay, so that pretty much has got most of the grease loosened up, and then we'll wipe it down with a clean rag. And yeah, I'm firing the damn intern. If you don't have, you can't guarantee there's no oil on a rag, paper towels work just fine. So just got, wipe this down, just get whatever residue. There's not much coming off. I mean, it was pretty clean to start with. Okay, now, for the most part, like right here, we don't have, I'm not gonna block off the mag well. I'm just not gonna aim my spray right up it, okay? That's fine. There's plenty of room there for the magazine. It's not that big a deal. And as long as you're not going straight up into that sucker, you're not gonna get any on the bolt or bolt carrier. And the bolt carrier should be nice and oily anyway, so it shouldn't stick. So there you go. All right, so I like to start off with a light color. And make sure it's, you know, well mixed. You know, the directions on the can, they work, you know. It's usually about 2 minutes after you start hearing the rattle. Okay, and then I'm just gonna back off a little bit. I like to start with the lighter color first and just give it a base coat. And you know, 6 to 8, 10 inches, whatever. My rattly intern in the back there. And by hanging it up, I can get to everything from every angle. And again, just a dusting. We're gonna put a lot more on here. Okay, we're trying to keep the underside is what's going to stay kind of light in color. But we want everything to have, especially on the sides. The top, you know, if you skip the top or lightly dust the top, that's fine. And it was already flat darker to start with, but throw a little extra on there, ain't gonna hurt anything. Okay, so what I've got here is just you know, some dead leaves from the yard, and it's just gonna help, you know, break up the pattern on the sides. I'm going with the next color here, which is kind of a medium brown. Now, I mean, depending on, you know, where you're gonna be operating, where you wanna put green or brown on here, but you find browns and greens and tans pretty much everywhere. You just don't find a lot of black out in nature. So I'm just gonna come along here and just lay it in right up against the side there. And then I'm gonna hit it. Okay, and that gives it a nice pattern there. Get it nice and flat on there. Okay, we're just breaking it up on the sides. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. You can find whatever you got laying around. Always seems to be effective for me. Or if you want to be really stylish or something, you can set these up. You can get go to like I don't know, Hobby Lobby or someplace like that, and they have plastic ones, and you can get all kinds of foliagey things going on. But some good natural veg, always good to have. So we'll chuck that one down. Okay, there's that medium brown color. It's gonna come around here. Okay, now there's kits you can buy, you know, 4 or 5 colors, whatever. I mean, if it's got black in it, you don't want to put black back on anyway. But we're not concerned that much. We want a pattern to kind of break up what we're seeing here. The colors that you use, you want to kind of mirror what you're gonna be operating in. A little bit of green, a little bit of tan, a little bit of brown, all good. Okay, so the next one we've got just a bunch of foliage here, and then we're just gonna put that on her and spray through it. There we go. This one's kind of a OD And we're just taking, again, just breaking up that, find any place that's in between here that just needs a little something. And just working around with it, you know, mess with it. See what you got. You're just trying to take some of that pattern out, break up the outline of the gun. So we want the top of the gun to be the darkest bit and the bottom of the gun to be the lightest. So from the side there, we're okay. We can come back, maybe hit a few spots, just kind of dusting it here and there. I want a little more green in some areas. Just kind of look back at it and go, okay, we're good. And it's pretty easy to get all ate up on this, but it's not really that necessary. Okay? All right. So on the handle, of course, my hand's probably gonna be in there most of the time. Not too worried about it. Okay, so that's broken up there. And you can do this with a couple more colors if you want. But then I'll go to the big one here is you want your darkest color along the top. I'm just gonna come straight over the top here and just run it. I'm just basically putting a dusting on there, and I'm darkening the pattern that was already there. So we just want this. This is like a dark brown ridge that's going straight down. And that's what's going to soak up the light that comes from above. Okay? We're pretty light underneath, so you know that doesn't actually look that bad. I'm gonna come back with that OD, maybe hit it with a few more of these. Yeah, give it a little more pattern. Some of you guys are gonna go, oh, he just squirted straight into the mag well. No, I didn't. It was right on the edge. Save your comments. Leave me some comments, but you know, just don't be stupid. Okay, so we're gonna come back here and you just give it that light dusting on the bottom. Let's use something that is gonna actually work. There we go. All right. So that light dusting on the bottom here. So whatever pattern you choose to use, it doesn't really matter. Just the principle that I'm trying to get across here is light on the bottom, dark on the top is gonna help flatten that out when you get out in the woods. So we let this dry for a second or two, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So that's dried for a little bit, and the last thing I like to put on there is just a little clear coat that's matte finished. Basically all this is gonna do is give you that extra little coating on there. Doesn't, you know, enhance anything really, just gives you the extra coating so that your finish will last a little bit longer. You know, and again, it's you know, just nice even coating on here. Didn't completely mask out the Sig Sauer, but you know, gotta be Gucci, right? Get it from all the angles. We'll let that dry for a little bit. We'll take off the tape, and then I'll show you what, we'll see if we can find some lighting, little areas of light that we can show you how this kind of helps flatten out the contours and the shadows. Okay, so it's been hanging here for a couple of minutes. I went and washed most of the paint off my fingers. Normally you'd want to let this sit overnight. Experts, you know, they read the can, they'll probably tell you, you know, it cures in, you know, 10 days or something like that. We ain't got the time right now. So I'm just gonna go over basically what we're gonna do here. Just take off your various tape. And as long as you're not spraying, you can take off the damn tape. That's not an issue. Control the gun from points where you don't actually have to, put your fingers on the, fingers in the mag well work really well, just to kind of be able to control that and get the tape off of those places that we put it, right? Okay, so that's pretty much the taking it off. And again, this is pretty much dry at this point to the touch. So now, if you look at it this way, it looks light. And if you look at it this way, it looks darker. But now, when we just set up like this, in the shadows right here, you'll notice that you get less reflection off the top, and this reflects more light down here. So it kind of, it takes some of the shadow out, in comparison. Right? So, I mean, you can, again, the pattern, is whatever pattern you want. Foliage, think of whatever you want to think of. But the idea then is just making sure that it's darker on top, lighter on the bottom, like a coyote. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. If you've painted up a gun and you've got some technique that you like, put it in the comments, man, because I'm always looking for better techniques.